Welcome to Your Cyber Path, the podcast that helps you get your dream cybersecurity job by sharing the secrets of experienced hiring managers and top cybersecurity professionals with you. Now, on to the show.
And one of the things I've heard a lot of people say is, oh no, ChatGPT is going to take my job, right? What do you think about that, Kip? Do you think this AI is going to replace us?
Possibly in the far-flung future. I don't know. That's a little murky, but I'll tell you what the situation is for the next, let's say, 3 years, okay? Because it's hard to look past that. I think of ChatGPT as like VisiCalc. Okay, so way back in the mists of time when personal computers first started showing up in the 1980s, one of the killer apps was this spreadsheet program called VisiCalc, and it took spreadsheets off of paper and whiteboards, which is where people used to do all that work, and put it into a computer and automated it. And what happened is that if you were an accountant or an engineer, or somebody who was doing a lot of finance work, anybody using a spreadsheet had to learn how to do it in a computer, and they had to stop doing it on giant ledgers and wall-sized charts. They had to completely change the way they worked, because if they didn't, they were going to be left behind as other people automated, and the people using computers to do spreadsheets were going to get results faster. They were going to be able to generate more scenarios than people using manual tools. And so it just sort of accelerated and increased productivity of the people who embraced it. And I think that's what the opportunity for ChatGPT is for us to embrace it as a killer app that's going to help us accelerate our own personal productivity, and also, the quality of the work that we can do in the same time. Like if I had an hour last year to write a script for a podcast, if I can use ChatGPT now, I can create just as good of a podcast episode in a fraction of the time, or I can take the rest of that time and I can invest it on making the script even better than I could have with working on my own with only an hour. So that's how I'm thinking of it. But does that pencil with you?
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to look at it. And, when we look at different technologies that come out, there's always this question on whether or not it's a transition technology or a transformational technology, right? And what I mean by that is there are some things that are a transitional technology, right? For instance, when we used to sign for our mortgages, you had this big, thick packet of papers when you go and buy a house, and you sign everything, and you sit there with a pen and ink, and you sign it all, right? Well,
And you
a
used to
lot
have
of
to go
that,
to a physical place.
right? And you go to a physical place, right? And nowadays you can do all of that online with things like
Mhm.
DocuSign or EverSign or any of those type of things, right?
Yep.
But that wasn't really a transformation as much as it was a transition. You took this paper thing and now it's this digital paper, and you sign it by clicking instead of signing it with your hand. That's
Yeah.
just, moving it from one medium to another. Same thing if you look at tax preparation, right? When I was younger and I had my first job as a bag boy working for Whole Foods, I got a W-2 at the end of the year, and I got this, 1040 EZ form, which was a one-page form, and you filled
Remember
out the
that.
little boxes, and you did the addition with a calculator, and you mailed that into the IRS with your check or to get your refund back. Well, TurboTax came along, and it was a transition technology. You're still filling out those forms, but then they started evolving over time, where it became this yes or no, and you started moving through, and it changed the process so that anybody can do their taxes. Because I can tell you, the first version of TurboTax and the old QuickBooks and things like that, it really was just, what did the paper look like? Now it's a digital form, fill out the blocks.
Yeah.
Then it got to this like questionnaire style thing where it was a different way so anybody
Kind of a
can
wizard.
do it. And that's where we start getting these transformations that happen, right? So Netflix is no longer just a movie rental company, it's a movie production company, and the way they do streaming instead of DVDs, and all that has changed from the way they originally started out. And that was a transformation over time. And I see a lot of these AI and ML technologies, they started out being very transitional, where it was, how do I replicate what you're already doing in a faster, easier way, to now becoming more transformational, where they are creating new processes and new ways of doing things. And I think ChatGPT is on the very starting of that transformation part. But the next version, when we get to GPT-4 and GPT-5 and GPT-6, it's going to be even better, even faster, even more accurate and things like that. So the tool is going to get
reasonable.
better.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. And I think my advice for anybody right now is get in there and start playing with it. Don't be left behind, because I think the pace of change is going to be pretty rapid, and it's going to be not impossible, but kind of tough. Think about if you avoided computers for the first 10 years, and then all of a sudden you're like, fine, I'll learn how to use Windows. Oh my gosh, what a lift. right?
Yeah.
It's much better for you to kind of go along. But as far as like job hunting goes, real quick, and then we'll talk about the actual topic of the episode today. As far as job hunters are concerned, like, would you tell somebody who's looking for a cybersecurity job to let ChatGPT write their resume right now?
Um, I would let it do my first draft, but I don't know if I would just take what they give me and then submit it, right? Because ChatGPT is dated in its knowledge. I equate this to somebody who, learned everything there was to learn up until 2021 and then never opened the news, never read another book. And that's essentially what ChatGPT did. It was trained on all this data up through, I think, mid 2021. And that's what GPT-3 is based on. So the way that, resumes were written 2 years ago may not be the way you want to write them today. The wording that we used 2 years ago may not be the wording used today. I think back to when I got my first, a degree in cybersecurity. We didn't call it cybersecurity. We called it information assurance. And so my degree is actually a master's of science in IT with a specialization in information assurance.
Mhm.
Today, we would call that a master's of science in cybersecurity, but back then we didn't. And so these terms do change over time. And if you're using an outdated term because you're using an outdated data set like ChatGPT, then that can become an issue, right?
Right.
Or if you ask it, hey, I'm on the job, I'm trying to set up, I don't know, a EC2 instance in Amazon Cloud. You can ask it, and it'll give you step-by-step directions on how to do it. But those are directions that match up with the 2021 interface. And in 2023, it looks a little different and things moved a little bit differently.
Right.
So there's
Right.
things like that where it becomes a little outdated. So you can't 100% trust it. You've got to verify it. You still need to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
that's why we're not worried about like it taking our jobs. And instead, it's a helpful tool that can help us do our jobs faster.